So one of the things I know about Windsor High School and our tradition in Windsor is that we create greatness. And greatness happens here in the school, but also greatness happens after people leave school. And they move on to the world and do other things. So one of the people we have for you today is a 2005 graduate of Windsor High School, Kristen Hopkins. She graduated. She was a mover and shaker in the building when she was here, and she'll be a mover and shaker for this assembly. She owns her own PR firm in Atlanta, and she was recently recognized as one of the 130 people to watch in the entire business community of Atlanta. She has written a book. She's going to talk to you today about her journey and how she got there, and hopefully inspire you to think about greatness to yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will turn on the video, and you'll get to meet Kristen Hopkins. Your attention to the video, please.
To be or not to be. To go or not to go. To achieve or not to achieve. To conquer or not to conquer. To identify or not to identify. To judge or not to be judged. To fear or not to fear. These are the questions that cloud our thoughts on a daily basis. These are the dangers of the mind. Now, when you came in here, you were supposed to receive a penny, but we'll do it at the night event, but I'll do the penny demonstration for this penny. When average Joe walks by a penny, what do you think that person does? Pick it up? Keep walking, right? So, does Joe walk right by the penny? Does he scoop the penny up and run home and put the penny in a savings jar? Does he put the penny in his wallet or in his wife's pocketbook and let it fall to the wayside or in the bottom of her purse? Some of us will pick it up. Yeah, some of us will pick it up. But then it will fall, probably in our cars, go missing, we don't know where the penny would go. There's a small amount of us that would pick the penny up and actually go home and put it in a savings jar, right? But majority of us would walk right by that penny. Holding this penny up in my hand and looking so clear at the penny. Does everyone see the penny? Maybe the glasses in the back. But majority of us, we would really not think too much about this penny. It has no value, right? It's just 1 cent. This same penny that I hold in my hand, this same penny that looks like it has no real value, the same penny is how we treat our dreams. We put it to the wayside, we throw them to the side, we walk right by them, we put them on the back burner, and this penny can change your entire life. This is why we have dangers of the mind. We must identify the dangers of the mind. Now, it relates to our everyday life. This can cause you to pass up opportunities in your life. It can cause you not to go to after-school programs or try out for one sport that you really want. It can have you not to have a relationship with your guidance counselors, not grow a rapport with them. Let them lead you on the path that you need to go on. Find a successful college that you need to go to. It can even hold you back from getting a job that you want to apply to. Not excelling in your classes. We must identify the dangers of the mind. Now I'm going to play this so you guys can see a little bit of this. Your most vulnerable place of attack is your thought life. This includes your hopes, your loves, your fears, and most especially your dreams. How does this happen? We look away from our dreams and all the good things happening in our lives, and we look towards a big stack of lies, misdirection, and misinformation that only serve to foretell and even derail our visions and our futures. Life is always about realizing our greatest purpose in life, about harnessing the power of our thoughts and walking in our fullest purpose towards success. So this is so important to me because, and the reason why I came back here to talk about the danger of the mind, because it's actually something that we have to be aware of in order to progress in life. Today I'm here to help you eliminate some attacks that you might have and be aware of so that it won't hinder your progress in life. In the words of the late, great Maya Angelou, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. When I was a little girl, I would play in front of my family. I would have everybody come around in the living room, and I would literally have like shows, musicals. It was like Kristen and Friends, but it would be Kristen, just me. I had friends, no friends. I was acting like the friends. I would do everybody's part. I thought I was like the superstar in my house. My family would literally sit down and watch me, everyone. Then when I got to Sage Park and went to high school, I started really understanding people and loving people and being in the mix, and I did a lot of track. I ran track. Anybody run track here? I was in track. I heard y'all doing really good, by the way. Girls, was it girls? Did y'all win the championship or something? Is that right? I don't know. So I did track, I did volleyball, I did volleyball, and I did indoor track. But I also was on the year committee, I also was in the gospel choir. I did so many things, all 4 years of high school. Once I got to college, I went to Delaware State University, by the way. Once I got to college, I was pretty confident in who I was. You know, I was like, I like people, I'm good at this, I can go around and be bold, and I'm just cool. You know, I'm cool with everybody, everybody's cool with me. So I had my own radio show in college. It was called Real Talk with my homegirl, Asia. I also had a ton of internships. And I don't want to stress this to you enough, but internships are so imperative. I got my first job, a really, really good job, doing PR for McDonald's and the Department of Public Health right here in Connecticut. And I was only going on 22 years old. And my boss gave me so much leeway. She had me go to radios and do my own interviews, conduct my interviews on behalf of McDonald's as a PR representation, but I would not have got that opportunity without those internships. I hosted a lot of homecoming parties. Also in college, I found out who I was in a sense of I was not afraid to take risks. Not at all. I wasn't afraid. And that's one of the keys to success, is to take a risk. Sometimes jump out there and just do it. See what happens. If you fail, dust yourself off and try again. At first, when I got an opportunity to go to China, I went to China when I was in college. I got selected amongst my whole mass communications department. I got a call from my professor, Kristen, come on down. You know, I want to talk to you about something. So I went down there, and he said, you know, we have an opportunity for 7 students to go study abroad, and you're someone that's excelled in mass communications, you're in everything over here, and we think that you'd be great for it, but we need you to take a test. Now, mind you, I'm not a good test taker, so I'm like, what kind of test? He's like, the test is about, you know, I need you to study on the Olympics, study on a couple sports that happen over in China, study about what's going on in China. So I studied for the test. Ended up passing the test. It was a 7-hour test. I had to write, I had to do everything. Passed the test. It was 7 hours increments. It wasn't just full out 7 hours, but we had to pass the test. I passed the test. He called me back and said, you know, I want you to go to China with our students. There's 6 more of you guys, and we're going to send you here for 6 to 7 months. So I'm like, 6 to 7 months in China? So at that point, I had a boyfriend. You know, I thought I was a cute little one. I'm like, my boyfriend, you know, I'm not going to China. So, you know, and after much consideration, I said, oh no, I'm going to go. You know, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that's something I want to touch on today too, is always maximize your opportunity. Windsor High School is such a great high school, and you have to maximize the diversity in this room. This diversity can take you so far. It took me very, very far. When I got out of high school and went to college, I loved everyone, because I was in a diverse school. I knew different cultures. I had different friends of all different ethnicities. So once I get to China, I was there for 6 to 7 months. I worked for the 2008 Olympics. I was a flash court reporter. So I worked for Russia and the US athletes. So, I mean, the experience out there was phenomenal. I turned 21 out there. I went and had a party at this club. I didn't know what it was called at the time, but we had fun. And it was just amazing. The opportunity was amazing. The people that I met in China, I am still friends with to this day. And they are high up. I mean, they're doing really, really big things. But that's all about cultivating relationships and building relationships. After I returned from China, my mentality was totally different. Changed up my mentality. I lived in Bethesda. Well, I got offered an opportunity. I came back my junior year. In my senior year, I got offered an opportunity to go to Bethesda, Maryland, and live in high-rise. I lived in about a 40-story building. And I had a concierge at my front desk. I would give them my dry clean. Excuse me, can you take my laundry? They treated me great. And I had an internship. I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but it's called the Washington Center. It's for prestigious internships and academic seminars. So they send people that, you know, excel in their colleges, they send them to these places. So I went down there, and the experience I had was phenomenal. I lived in Bethesda, Maryland, but I had an internship in Arlington, Virginia with a PR government firm called Tricom Associates. So when I went there, I got an opportunity to work with Vice President Biden. I got an opportunity to work with the Northwest and Southwest merger that was happening at the time with the airlines. So I got a lot of government corporate opportunities. And I had to travel every single day. Now this is why I stand out. I stood out to my boss, and me and him are like this now, to this day. He always supports, he's in my book, by the way. But I stood out to him because I got misplaced. I was supposed to be right across the street from my boss's office. It was 4 locations that they housed us at. But instead, they housed me all the way in Bethesda, Maryland. So I took an hour and a half on the train every day to my job and every day back. Every single morning, I was there before the 2 girls that lived across the street. So what did that tell him? That I was dedicated, that I was committed, I was serious about my internship, and I stayed abreast on all the local moves that was going on. So that hour and a half that I took on the train, I was reading newspapers, trying to understand what was going on in the PR world, trying to stay abreast on everything that was going on. That put me so far from these people. Not that I was in competition, because I wasn't. They were my friends, I loved them. But it put me so far because I was just focused on what I was trying to do. After that, I started reading a lot of different articles, different magazines, getting more involved in the PR community. And I met one of my really good friends, Chris Baker. He actually graduated from here too. He had a sports agent who I was writing a paper for. I had to write a paper for someone really influential in Washington, D.C. So I picked his sports agent. So I went down there, wrote a paper on him, and while I'm at the office, they're like, Kristen, because he saw the paper, he's like, I want you to come in, I want you to meet my partner. And so I went to D.C., I dressed all nice, you know, walked in the office, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a huge office. They got pictures of Beyonce. I'm like freaking out. And you know, I'm just this little 21-year-old girl at the time. So I walk in the office and we have a long talk. I don't end up leaving for 2.5 hours. They sit down with me And they said, you know what, Kristen, you're very special. We can't point it right now, but you're very passionate about what you're doing, and we love that about you. You have a lot of good energy to you. And he said, what are you doing after you graduate? And I said, well, I don't know. It's a recession. It's 2009. I don't know what to do. It's hard to find a job. And if anybody knows or remembers, 2009 was a very bad recession, especially for people coming out of college. So this guy named Tony Page, he told me, he said, Kristen, if you can't find a job, create your own. And that stuck with me forever. I never let that go. So after I graduated, I flew to Atlanta for a couple of days and was talking to one of my business partners, who's my business partner now. But I told her, I said, we should start a company. And she looked at me and was like, you're crazy. We're only 22 years old and we just graduated. What are you talking about? I'm like, we have tons of experience. We've done like 5 internships each, you know what we're talking about. Why did we do it? So we went down and literally LLC'd our business 2010 in Georgia. That's when I came back and started doing some PR for McDonald's. And I had the business on the side thing. So I was doing PR, learning the professional world, and still using that and applying it to everything that I had built now. So I decided, after to create my PR company, the company went great. I specialize in fashion, nonprofit, and lifestyle brands. But I told myself when I was in Connecticut, I said, in 2 years, I'm leaving and going to Atlanta. I said, I'm only going to stay here for 2 years. And so when that 2-year mark hit up and I was at my company, I gave them my resignation letter and I said, listen, I have plans to go to Atlanta they're like, okay, what are your plans? I'm like, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to pack my car and I'm just going to go and figure it out from there. I had a cousin out in Atlanta, so I stayed with her for a month and then I found me a very beautiful place in Buckhead. If anyone knows Atlanta, Buckhead is a very nice area in Atlanta. So I found me a beautiful place, rooftop pool. But what did I do? I got distracted. So once I got out there, I started throwing parties, parties. I had parties on the rooftop, parties at the pool, parties 3 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon. And it's because I had free will. I had my own company, I could do what I wanted to do, right? But no, I needed some discipline. And so 4 years after, or 3 years later, I got into a situation where my place flooded. That was the first thing that happened to me. My place flooded. It was a tragic situation. But after my place flooded, the next month, I got in a really big car accident where my car totaled. I spun around 7 times, smacked into a pole, car totaled. Walked out with nothing. I got this little scratch in my hand. That's about it. So that made me feel like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. I'm destined to be here. Because I made mistakes. That was the result. My car was gone. Then, not even a month later, my computer crashed. So now, within 3 to 4 months, I was out of a computer. I had no living situation. It was messed up. There was fans going all around in my place. And then, number 3 is my working condition. How can I work? I had no computer. I had no car and no transportation. Sorry, number 3, I had no transportation. So it made me get depressed. I really went down and was like, okay, what am I going to do? My life was different. I lived this glamorous life, and I'm like, what's going to happen now? So I got an opportunity to go to North Carolina, and when I went to North Carolina, unfortunately, when you're in public relations, you are amongst a lot of wealthy people, which is a very great thing. So a lot of connections that you make. And one of my friends, he was in the NFL at the time, and he hurt his leg. And when he hurt his leg, he invested in some Zaxby's. Does everybody know what Zaxby's is, the restaurant? He invested in some Zaxby's. When he invested in those Zaxby's, he was like, Kristen, I need you to come help me out and do some PR and marketing for my restaurant. He was like, I'm opening one, but it's not in Atlanta though. I'm like, well, where is it? He's like, it's in North Carolina. I'm like, where in North Carolina? He tells me it's in Durham. Now, mind you, my parents live 15 minutes from Durham. So I'm like, well, maybe this is a great opportunity. This is another check for my company. I can go down and wait till my place fixes, and I can stay with my parents for 6 months. It was supposed to be a 6-month project. So I went down to North Carolina, packed myself up, went down with my little dog. We traveled on down. And when I got there, A month into doing the project, he got bought out of his restaurant. So one restaurant, he's in a partnership with 3 people. So he calls me and says, Kristen, we're gonna have to stop everything. We're gonna stop the contract. Like, what happened? He's like, well, something went bad with my partnership and I got bought out, you know, so I'm out of this restaurant that's supposed to be grand opening. So the grand opening was supposed to be in January. I was supposed to leave after January. So I'm like, okay, so am I supposed to stay here? Now I'm a very spiritual person. So I looked up and I said, God, am I supposed to stay here? What are you doing? I need to understand. And I heard that he told me to stay. So I didn't get it, so I just, you know, I just started working, continued doing the daily accounts that I normally did. And the next day, I heard dangers of the mind. And I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. I didn't know what it was, so I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Just wrote it down. Then 2 days later, I get to my computer and I was writing an email. And like my heart was so heavy and I didn't know why. So I switched it over to a blank document and I just started writing. And when I literally got to the end of the page, I just went back up and started reading. I'm like, what am I writing about? And I was writing about the distractions, everything that has hindered me from walking in my fullest potential. Even though I was an entrepreneur, yes, and I was doing great things, I wasn't the entrepreneur I knew I could be. Or, so I say, you know, people look at you and say, oh, you're doing great. But me, on the other hand, I look at myself and know I can do better. Do you guys feel that way sometimes? Especially if you're in sports and people are like, oh, you're so good. But then you're like, no, I could have made that extra shot. No, I could have, you know, spiked that ball down her head. Sorry. Volleyball terms. But, that's basically, you know, how I looked at it. So after I wrote the book, I really became very like, wow, this is the danger of mind. These are the things that are attacking my thought life every day. You know, these are people that are making me not progress like I should. So I started to reevaluate my life. Started to reevaluate the people that I was around. And I learned that progress is the true definition of life. If we're not progressing every day, what are we living for? Why are we here? Every day. I don't mean every month. I don't mean every week. I mean every day. So just like that penny you got, or I have in my hand, just like that penny I have in my hand, be aware that the penny can be $1 someday. Like your dreams, the ones that you placed on the back burner, the job that you might have not applied for, the guidance counselor that you haven't even talked to yet, you don't know her name, anything, this penny is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to succeed, it's an opportunity to maximize an opportunity that you have in front of you. It's an opportunity to win in any of your situations. As long as you are aware of the negative people that can come into your life and really throw you off course. I have so many friends that were just hanging around the wrong people and don't know what happened to their life. Got off the wrong course. And I don't want to see any of you go through that. This is the generation that's supposed to surpass us. You guys have all the technology. You guys are so advanced. And it's your time now, is your time to know exactly what you want to do. Don't wait until college to say, oh, I think I want to do this, I think I'm good at this. No, this is your time now. What you're involved in, what you love to do right now, is probably what you're going to like to do in the future. So what I did was I started realizing how I acted. A lot of teachers know I was crazy in high school. I was out and about, I was always doing something. You always saw me around. I was like, hey, how you doing? Okay, I'm here. Kristen, where are you going now? I was always around. So it taught me that I'm a people's person. I love people. So why not go into public relations and marketing? That's what I love to do. I talk to people on the phone. I do pitch calls. I go to interviews with my clients. I do a lot of people networking. So why not? Thank you. Why not, do what I want to do? So I realized my purpose early in life, and I just had to fulfill it. The fear that knocks on your doors, the insecurities that slip in your head when certain obstacles arise, I'm not smart as her. I'm not as skinny as her. Why? Why do we care? Be you. Be who you are. You're smart because that's you. And you can be the best you that you can be. You can't be anyone else. In Danger of the Mind, I talk a lot about perception. Because, does anybody know what perception is, by the way? If you do, could someone raise their hand and tell me? Anyone?
It's like the way you see something like an object, like that's how you portray it and like how you take it in.
Right. And one in the back, is that what you're going to say? I'm sorry, can you talk about this one? Yep. So, what do we see on Instagram? Everybody have Instagram? Instagram, straight flex. All y'all probably, right? No, everybody has an Instagram or a Facebook or a Twitter. And MySpace, well, that's old. That's old. But these things make us look at people and say, oh my gosh, she had the latest this, or they had the latest this, but you don't know what's going on in that person's life. You're judging that person by one photo. You're judging that person by what you think they have. They could have stolen their brother's shoes. That's right out here. You know, they could have been put in a situation that looks glamorous, but then they go back to depression. But on their Instagram, you're just judging them off their photos. Twitter, Facebook, all social media. So that's one thing that I want to aggressively talk about when it comes to this young generation. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is lovely. Don't get me wrong, I love social media. Because I live it. This is what I do with my clients. I deal with it all day. But it can be dangerous. Because you start wrapping yourself up in other people's lives, trying to be that next person, and you forget about who you really are. So every time I go speak to students and young adults and college students, I always tell them, remember who you are. Remember who you are so that you can find your purpose. It's so good to know who you are. So after identifying the danger of the mind, we don't stop there. We continue the journey by breaking the chains of distractions. Like I said, let those people go. Not go to your circle. Just let them go. I know in Atlanta, a lot of kids in Atlanta, I don't know if it's the law here in Connecticut, but in Atlanta, if you're caught with somebody with a weapon, drugs, anything on them, oh, you're going to jail. If it's on them, you're going to jail. If you're in that car, you're in the vicinity, you're going with them. It's not about who has it. It's about association. Association is very important. Make sure that the people you walk home with, the people you get in the car with, make sure their mentality is right where you are. Or higher than you. You always gotta have somebody in your circle that's higher. My mom taught me that if you hang around 9 poor people, you're gonna be the 10th poor person. If you hang around 9 rich people, you're gonna be the 10th rich person. And not meaning rich, I'm not even talking about rich in dollar signs, I'm talking about rich in mentality. You gotta have the mentality of a wise person. You gotta think rich in order to be rich, right? After breaking the chains of distractions, we learn how to start over and recreate our atmospheres. In the book, I talk about recreating my atmosphere because I had to just get to a place where I had to say, okay, now that I've taken all these people away and I've let all these people go out of my life, now I'm coming to a place of self-love and self-peace, and I'm recreating my atmosphere. I'm recreating the atmosphere for greater, for success. Once we recreate the atmosphere, we start to proclaim our vision. What do we like to do in life? What do we feel like we would enjoy doing for free? And then once that is done, we are preparing for the greater. So once we proclaim our vision, then we shift into preparing for what is greater, what is to come. Don't be afraid to walk in your fullest purpose. I have a line in my book that says, life becomes oh so beautiful when you live it with purpose. I want for you all to, you guys don't have cell phones in here, huh? Okay, so I know, I don't want to get you guys in trouble, set it up, like, lift your cell phones up, and she's like, oh, no, So the objective, I'm going to read, this is a presentation that I do all the time, but I really want to alter it for you guys. So it's just really creating awareness of the dangers of the mind and creating a plan to beat them on a daily basis. Learn how to break the chains of distractions and finding the power of your tongue. I really believe in the power of my tongue. I always use words, I will be, I will do. Not I can't, I don't know about that, because it won't happen. You have to watch the power of your tongue and make sure you know what you're saying and speaking out into the atmosphere. Preparing for the greater, make sure that you can never go back to the thoughts of doubt or fear in order to walk confidently and towards your future. So we talked about perception, complacency. Does anybody know what complacency is? One person. I'm remembering the people that's answering questions, by the way. No? Yes, exactly. Exactly. That was awesome. So complacency is definitely being so comfortable in your situation. Not willing to excel out of that. You're like, okay, I'm good. When I was here and, working for the PR firm, my mom had left me a house, 5 bedrooms, in Windsor. Exit 37. It was nice little house. She sold it, by the way, but she left it for me because they moved to North Carolina. So again, I was complacent. I had a really great job. I would have my own company, and then I had a house, by myself. So I became complacent. Started lacking the passion. Started lacking the drive to do things. Traveled out of town every weekend with my friends. I became truly complacent. Insecurities. This is so important because insecurities are our biggest weakness. But once we identify the insecurity, we can beat them and make them greater than we are. Our fear, I'm actually a person that I'll risk it all. I'm not fearful. I've never had this problem. I'll literally jump up and go on a plane and be right in China somewhere tomorrow. But all right, see you guys later. Yeah, I don't have fear problems. I don't know why, but I don't. Breaking the chains of distractions, like we talked about, creating a positive circle of friends. Distractions can be dangerous, and being a true leader. So once you create that positive circle of friends, make sure you're that leader that you're supposed to be. I want you guys to stay connected with Dangers of the Mind, because it's not just a book. This is truly a movement. Danger of the Mind is going very, very far. I have a lot of things set up for, and it's not just going to be national. I'm going international. I'm not just staying in the U.S. with this, because I feel as though my mission is to shift the minds of this generation. Make them surpass us. And that's you guys. We got people now that 7 years old are CEOs of businesses. I saw somebody on Ellen the other day, I think it was like 12, they had a little cookie company, making millions. I'm like, this little boy, what? She gave him a van, and she gave him $15,000, all this stuff. It was crazy. But he was only 12 years old. Because the technology that we have, the resources that we have now, you can't limit yourself. And that's one thing that I want to mention. Break free from limitations. Don't keep yourself in the box. Always step outside the box. Do more. Think bigger. My website is dangersofthemind.com, and a lot of people every month, they submit me stories, and I'll read them over, and then I'll post one. And the stories are just ways that they beat the dangers of the mind. How have they overcome their situations? There's so many stories. One of my friends, I have another friend who played for the Falcons and got hurt really, really bad. And he said, Kristen, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know where my life is going to go. I only know football. That's all I know. And so I said, you know what? You're good at other things. You'll find it. You'll find your niche. And then he came to me and told me, Kristen, I bought some houses. I bought some houses in Mississippi. I said, how many houses you buy, Marquez? He said, I bought like 5. I said, you bought like 5? That's not some houses. That's like a big situation. But now he's a very good real estate agent in Mississippi. So he changed his whole life around and beat the danger of the mind. Beat the attacks that he was only good at football. No, life changes, and when life changes, you change, right along with life. And so I want you guys to make sure you stay connected with me because we are going on a journey. I'm just not going here. This is my first stop, and I will be continuing the journey of my tour. And also, I want to leave with you today that besides this book, Dangers of the Mind, this book is equipped with journals at the end of each chapter. And I made these journals specifically for you guys so that you can understand and relate to your life. So after you read every chapter, there's journals that ask you specific questions that pertain to the chapter that relates specifically to yourself. And one gentleman, right before I left Atlanta, there's like I live in a townhome, and the guy right next to me, well, the home right next to me is a nonprofit. They turned the townhome into a nonprofit. So it's like, it's for boys that, you know, that are trying to do better. And so I go over there and I talk to them all the time. I'm so friendly. I was like, Miss Kristen, Miss Kristen. So I'm sitting there talking to him on my porch, and we'll talk and laugh. And the guy, one of the guys, he was real thug. He never smiled at me. He was always like, what's up? With a nod. I'm like, okay, how you doing? So he basically rung my doorbell right before I was about to fly out. Literally about to get on the plane. I opened my door. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, what's up, Miss Kristen? I'm like, what's up? What's up, Mac? He said, Mac. I'm like, what's up, Mac? He was like, I just want to tell you, I read your book the other day. And I said, oh, I mean, mind you, it like shocked me. I was like, oh, you read my book? He was like, yeah, man, I read your book the other day. And he was like, can you have a couple minutes to talk to me? So I stopped everything I was doing. I almost missed my flight. I stopped everything I was doing because I wanted to hear what he had to say because he never talks. So I'm like fascinated. I'm like, so what you think of it? He was like, so, you know, it really got me thinking. And he said, I want to show you what I wrote in the book. So I'm thinking that he only wrote like maybe the first chapter journal or something. So I opened the book and the whole book is completely packed with everything he felt. And it touched my heart so much because it showed me that even the toughest of the toughest guy can break down and say, listen, I have some danger of mine. I have some attacks that are coming against my thought life that I need to get correct. And so I sat down with him and we made a quick plan and I challenged him. I said, I'll be back in a week and a half. And when I come back, I want to see your plan. And I'm going to give him some money for giving me that plan. I'm giving him some money because I want to give him the money and challenge him to go get the materials he needs to make what he wants to do. So every week we're going to have a challenge where he's going to come back to me. He's going to show me what he did with that money, and then I'll give him some more. But the reason I'm doing that is because he's not going to understand it and fully get it or work hard for it if there's no opportunity there. So I know how to work with students and kids to make sure that they understand the opportunity. And with him, it's a different situation, but it just touched my heart so much because he was so into the book. And it made me so proud because it made me feel like, wow, if I can reach the toughest kid that might have been through so much, I can reach someone that hasn't been through a lot and just wants to read the book and you know, and understand the danger of the mind. So it made me really excited about that. But as I close with you today, I want to tell you that you have to walk in purpose and live on purpose, but always be aware of the dangers of the mind. Thank you. So the people that raise their hand to the questions, raise their hand again so I can get you. The ones that answer the questions. This is for you. Can you pass this back to her? And what's the other one? Can you come up here, please? I'm sorry. Can you come up here? Yep. And now I'm going to ask a couple questions. We're going to do, you guys can ask me questions first, or what do you want to do? You can ask me first, or then I can ask you, because I want to have you share some of your dangers of the mind with me, whether it's, and don't be afraid, whether it's fear, whether you're nervous, you're scared, you have perception, you look at people and always want what they want, and get so caught up in their lifestyle, or it could be just simply something identity. You can say, hey, Miss Chris, I don't know who I am right now. I'm still trying to figure that out. And that's fine. So does anybody have any changes of the mind that they would like to share? Okay. Can you stand up back there, please, sir? Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, because it's like an insecurity factor. So it's definitely an animal. Why are you nervous? Yeah. So how do you feel like you can overcome the nervous factor? You don't know? Yeah. So that's good. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. Now, what I want to say about being nervous is that was such a great example, because when we all get put in different environments, we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to adapt as quickly as other people to the environment, especially if we don't know anybody in the environment. So being nervous is natural. It's a natural feeling. But that feeling will soon go away. So that's a great part, because it's not going to stay forever. You're going to start learning new people, how people are. You're going to start creating your circle of friends. And just be yourself. That's all I can tell you, is always be yourself. And every time I go to speak somewhere, I have little jitters that come across me. But then I'm like, hey, Kristen, I'm myself. I can't be no one but myself. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to give you a book, too. Any other things in the mind that someone wants to share? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So basically how I approach college, I'm going to tell you, and with high school, I don't think I was that bright. I mean, I was good, but I wasn't as good a student as I got in college. And I think that's because I started really understanding I was paying for school, and it was actually money coming out of my pocket. But when I prepared for college, I did have a couple of friends from Windsor High School that came with me to Delaware State. Actually, about like 7 of us went to Delaware State University. But besides that, I actually just mentally prepared my mind to listen, hey, I'm transitioning into a new atmosphere, and this is exciting. It's exciting. There's nothing to be nervous about. Everyone is coming to college. You're not the only one saying, hey, I'm just going to college, I'm a freshman. Everyone else that is coming to college are freshmen too. So they're all feeling the same way you do. That's how you guys think. Everyone else in college don't know nobody. They're just like, oh, okay, I'm here. I'm going to find a friend. I found friends so quick in college. And that's not even because I was talking to them or talking to them. I wasn't even really like that at first. I just was kind of like cool and collective. I just found my people I wanted to hang out with. Found the people that was my clique, my type of friend. And I remember that when we were in college, we had a group called CT and Y. And it was like Connecticut girls and New York girls. And we was like always together. And we never separated. But that was my little clique until, I branched off and met other people. But we all stuck together. So people that are from around where you're from, trust me, you guys are gonna stick together until you find someone new. But don't be nervous. Change that nervousness to excitement, because this college is a great opportunity to succeed and maximize, your learning abilities. So that was a great question. Okay. Any other questions? We're gonna wrap it up. Atlanta. So I've been in Atlanta for the last 5 years, and I'm still there. I do look to move very soon. I'm still debating on where I'm moving to, because I'm the type of person I can be going with Atlanta, and I feel like I love Atlanta. I really do, and I'll probably get a house out there or something. But I want to move to to another state. I'm still trying to figure out where to go to. It's either going to be LA or North Carolina. I like North Carolina, it's very quiet for me, so. I got you. Nope, the one just asked the question. She's like, me? So, sorry. Okay, okay, how many minutes do we have? 4 minutes? Okay, so we'll try to take 4 more questions. Thank you so much. What's your name? Hold on. So do you have our question was, how did you know what you wanted to do? And it's stressful to her because she doesn't know what she wants to do right now. My answer to that is, I knew what I wanted to do because I'm a people person. And PR is all about people. Marketing is all about people. And but what I didn't know is what it was at first. When I got to college, I was like trying to be on TV broadcast. I'm like, oh, I want to be on TV, TV screen. And then my professor told me, Kristen, I think that you'd be really good at PR. You're really good at promoting people's things. And I didn't decide my major until my 2nd semester of college. So my freshman year. So after my professor told me what public relations really entails, I was like, oh, this is all me. I got this, I can do this. So that's when I really started pursuing public relations on a serious level in college. But you must realize what you're good at, and then go to a guidance counselor. You guys have guidance counselors here that can guide you. That's why they're guidance counselors. They're going to guide you in the way that you need to go. So if you say, hey, I'm good at dancing or this and this, well, let's look at opportunities. And any other questions?
How long has it been a tour for?
Stand up, I'm hearing you.
How long have you been on tour for? How long have you been on tour for, did she say?
This is the first stop. This is the first stop, yeah.
Last question.
So one more thing before you leave. We're doing videos. And the videos are gonna go with me everywhere I go. And you saw how people play it? The videos are going to go random in the back, and you can stop and say one word to them. They'll say, they'll take it, they'll follow it everywhere I go. So he's in the back. Troubleshooting, that's right out here. They could have been put in a situation that looks glamorous, but then they go back to depression. But on their Instagram, you're just judging them off their photos. Twitter, Facebook, all social media. So that's one thing that I want to aggressively talk about when it comes to this young generation. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is lovely. Don't get me wrong, I love social media. Because I live it. This is what I do with my clients. I deal with it all day. But it can be dangerous. Because you start wrapping yourself up in other people's lives, trying to be that next person, and you forget about who you really are. So every time I go speak to students and young adults and college students, I always tell them, remember who you are. Remember who you are so that you can find your purpose. It's so good to know who you are. So after identifying the danger of the mind, we don't stop there. We continue the journey by breaking the chains of distractions. Like I said, let those people go, not go through your circle. Let them go. I know in Atlanta, a lot of kids in Atlanta, I don't know if it's the law here in Connecticut, but in Atlanta, if you're caught with somebody with weapons, drugs, anything on them, oh, you're going to jail. If it's on them, you're going to jail. If you're in that car, you're in the vicinity, you're going with them. It's not about who has it. It's about association. Association is very important. Make sure that the people you walk home with, the people you get in the car with, make sure their mentality is right where you are. Or higher than you. You always gotta have somebody in your circle that's higher. My mom taught me that if you hang around 9 poor people, you're gonna be the 10th poor person. If you hang around 9 rich people, you're gonna be the 10th rich person. And not meaning rich, I'm not even talking about rich in dollar signs, I'm talking about rich in mentality. You gotta have the mentality of a wise person. You gotta think rich in order to be rich, right? After breaking the chains of distractions, we learn how to start over and recreate our atmospheres. In the book, I talk about recreating my atmosphere because I had to just get to a place where I had to say, okay, now that I've taken all these people away and I've let all these people go out of my life, now I'm coming to a place of self-love and self-peace, and I'm recreating my atmosphere. I'm recreating the atmosphere for greater, for success. Once we recreate the atmosphere, we start to proclaim our vision. What do we like to do in life? What do we feel like we would enjoy doing for free? And then once that is done, we are preparing for the greater. So once we proclaim our vision, then we shift into preparing for what is greater, what is to come. Don't be afraid to walk in your fullest purpose. I have a line in my book that says, life becomes oh so beautiful when you live it with purpose. I want for you all to, you guys don't have cell phones in here, Ken? Okay, so I don't want to get you guys in trouble. Set it up, like lift your cell phones up, and she's like, oh, no, and grab that. So I'm going to put these signs. So the objective, I'm going to read, this is a presentation that I do all the time, but I really want to alter it for you guys. So it's just really creating awareness of the dangers of the mind and creating a plan to beat them on a daily basis. Learning how to break the chains of distractions and finding the power of your tongue. I really believe in the power of my tongue. I always use words, I will be, you know, I will do. Not I can't, I don't know about that, because it won't happen. You have to watch the power of your tongue and make sure you know what you're saying and speaking out into the atmosphere. Preparing for the greater, make sure that you can never go back to the thoughts of doubt or fear in order to walk confidently and towards your future. So we talked about perception, complacency. Does anybody know what complacency is? One person. I'm remembering the people that's answering questions, by the way. No? Yes, exactly. Exactly. That was awesome. So complacency is definitely being so comfortable in your situation. Not willing to excel out of that. You're like, okay, you know, I'm good. When I was here and, you know, working for the PR firm, my mom had left me a house, 5 bedrooms in Windsor. Exit 37. It's nice little house. She sold it, by the way, but she left it for me because they moved to North Carolina. So again, you know, I was complacent. I had a really great job. I had my own company, and then I had a house, you know, by myself. So I became complacent. Started lacking the passion, started lacking the drive to do things, traveled out of town every weekend with my friends. I became truly complacent. Insecurities. This is so important because insecurities are our biggest weakness. But once we identify the insecurity, we can beat them and make them our